Welcome to the new 26 Rainbow Power for this week. Episode 103. It's time to get feelsy, y'all. And I've got a question to ask, or more or less a statement. Ever wondered what happened on the other side of the opening scene of the pilot? You know, from part one of the series? Well, this week we find out the answer, and it's actually a very heartwarming result. And I have to admit, there's a little bit of me in this episode, personally, and there's a little bit of how far that I have physically come since joining the fandom, because I have a lot that have to do with the main focus of this episode and the character and the background pony that is part of this episode. To give you the long and short, this episode is, to me, a 5 out of 6, but it could border on a 6 depending on other people's reactions. This could be an episode that I revisit again at the end of the season and possibly regrade. That's why this episode is so particularly weird. And the episode is called Amending Fences. It is a Twilight episode. And if you know anything about me, I am the biggest Twilight Spark fan ever. She is the reason I love this show. She is the reason I watch it. And seeing her grow as a character just shows how well written this episode is. And this is the point of the video where I get spoiler and get into the deeper review. So, beyond this point, if you haven't watched the episode, please do yourself a favor if you care about the show and watch it. And try to watch it legally if possible. That would be great. And make sure to come back here and see the review afterwards. Or if you want to, you can wait for the friendship table later this week with Dragonheart, Arbiter, and Choirboy. But onto the episode. The episode actually has Twilight going back to Canterlot. Why? Because she feels a little bit depressed because she left friends when she originally left for Ponyville in the original pilot. Minuet, Moon Dancer, Lyra, and her, and Lemon Drops used to be friends at Canterlot School. And when she left for Ponyville to take out Nightmare Moon in the pilot ultimately and end up where she is now, she left on a day of a very important party that her friend Moon Dancer was having. Well, after Twilight really thinks about it, after looking at some pictures from her house and noticing that there isn't any pre-Ponyville pictures, she makes it a mission upon herself to reunite with her old Canterlot friends and reignite friendships. Well, it just so happens when it comes to Minuet, Lemon Drops, and all of her other friends, it's very easy. In fact, they remember right away who she was and even account that they were there at the coordination ceremony in Magical Mystery Cure. However, one friend is not so easily reunited, and that is Moondancer. Moondancer has become a massive antisocial study freak, so much so that she has no time for social interactions, friendships, or anything else. She has decided to live her life in her own little bubble, something that ultimately, of course, disturbs Twilight, seeing that Twilight and her are a reflection of one another. In a way, through Moondancer, the writers have cleverly found a way to show the world a reflection of Twilight if she would have not taken Celestia's initial advice and leave the books at home and go after the elements of harmony. The kind of overstudy freakish character that she would have became, closed in and antisocial, unable to make friends and making herself incredibly distant. And it looks like Moondancer is having none of the friendship business, telling her off on multiple occasions. And we find out the reason for it. The party that initially took place in the pilot, the thing that we didn't see, was Moondancer trying to come out of her social shell. And it failed miserably. So much so that she gave up on the entire notion of friendship as a whole and dedicated her entire life and times to studying, as the other ones went onto their certain ways. One is a candlelight party baker, and the others just genuinely have fun. Even Lyra now lives in Bunnyville, which we know that. But until this episode, we didn't know that they were friends already to this point. Plus, there's a nice little nod to Look Before You Sleep, and there's even a nod to the comics, as well as Twilight uses a spell in which she enters a book to continue her, albeit in failure, conversation with Moondancer from the Bookworm arc. By the way, there's a review of the Bookworm arc that I'll leave a link to through our series Pony Panels. But it's through a level of flashbacks that we find out how the friendships were started and what ultimately brought it up. Personally, I thought Luna was the one responsible for the second flashback of the party itself. Because of this, Twilight is even more determined to fix the problem by staging a similar party of her own. With the help of Pinkie Pie, of course, which is a media continuity connection back to last week's episode of Party Poop. But, again, Moondancer isn't having it. But when Twilight ultimately confesses that she feels ultimately devastated, stated by the result that she took by taking off without saying goodbye, let alone being at the party, she feels ultimately wrecked by it and wants Moondancer and herself to give friendship a second chance. And really, for Moondancer, that's all it took. A confession, a O-up. A reason to understand that, yes, even a character as perfect as Twilight made an earth-shattering, crushing mistake, which this once again is evidence to why I believe that Twilight has never been nor never will be a Mary Sue. Spike is done expertly, and We also see some old school places and memories from the pilot. In a way, this episode almost brings Twilight's journey in a pseudo full circle reflection to see how much the character has grown as a person, as a socialite, as well what she is as a princess, and how much the simple value of having lifelong friends has mattered to her, and that it can matter to other people if taught well. The moral of this episode is very simple. Owning up to your mistakes, understanding that even the smallest little thing that you don't think will have any devastation at all can have life-crushing consequences. But even after that, giving a second chance and owning up to your mistake and facing the mistakes of your past to write a better future with friends and, well, as the episode is entitled, mend fences that were once broken, can sometimes make a friendship even stronger to that effect. But for me, on a personal level, this episode for me pretty much explains the last 6 years of my life, especially the last two. I was once an antisocial, unable to talk, unable to go to parties, unable to interact. Then I met a friend. A friend through the most unlikely of places. One Tony Zeri. Being part of his radio show every week, every day, calling the show, and being part of that world gave me a chance to see something that I had never seen in myself. It made me more social, made me more ready, made me prepared. Joining Xbox Live and making friends and even mending a few fences along the way made my life better. And over the last 2 years, I, like Twilight, have embraced friendship full on. It has changed my life in so many ways. This episode, for me, on a personal level, is a 6. But overall, it is a 5. Mainly because of Moon Dance. It can get kind of grating, but it is completely understandable. Plus, every character is right on point. Everything is continuity, and background ponies, once again, take the center stage. Which means Slice of Life wasn't just a flash in the pan. This was a clue to the future. Amending fences to me on a personal level strikes a chord. Using my favorite character only hits home. For me, being a brony has been one of the best decisions I've made in my life. Doing this channel, being friends with each and every friend on Xbox Live, from old to new. I am no longer the person that I once was. I'm no longer Moon Dancer. So focused on gaming and studying and being in my own little world that I don't allow anybody in. I now try to let everyone in. I have found inner peace with myself and the world that I live in. Mending fences wasn't just a reflection of Twilight and how far she has come. It's a reflection on me and how far I've come. I never thought an episode would emotionally touch me as much as this has. And that says a lot about the power of this show's writing, the power of this show's character, and why nearly 2 years ago I made a shot and trusted a friend. I took a bet. And it is on this day that I can say to him and to all of you, he was right. And as I've said before, I'm not leaving until the train leaves the station, even for good. I ain't leaving at all. And this episode is proof positive. Friendships are truly everlasting if you want them to, even if you make a devastating mistake. Albeit rushed, somewhat mismanaged, and Moondancer not being entirely likable for the first half, this episode is a fine example of character writing, and a fine reflection of how far my favorite character has come. And it ties up one of the loose ends that we never thought needed tying up. But you know what? Much like Twilight, we didn't know that we needed it until it was done. A 5 out of 6. Until next week, where we get to have some fun with the Princess of the Night. I am Nirvana Sparkle. Find peace in your own Nirvana. Thanks for watching.